Well, first of all, I want to explain that this press conference is by the citizens of this country, the citizens who signed the declaration condemning the things that has been happening in Malaysia, particularly with the government of Malaysia. Now, we all know that the US Justice Department has come out with a very comprehensive report. And this report vindicates all the things that we have said in the Deklarasi Rakyat, or the Citizens' Declaration. There is now no more doubt that what we said happened in this country has indeed happened, because this report is made by authorities who are experts in their field, who are authorized to make this report. And this report cites names and titles, as well as giving the list of properties and other assets which has been bought with money that has been stolen from 1MDB. Now, 1MDB, as you know, is a so-called sovereign wealth fund set up by the Malaysian government, headed by Datuk Sri Najib. He is solely responsible for everything that is done in the name of 1MDB. This is stated in the articles of association of the company. It says that everything, all decisions made with regard to appointments or the usage of the money must have the approval of the advisor to the board, and the advisor to the board is the Prime Minister of Malaysia. So there can be no doubt that Datuk Sri Najib is responsible. Now, the report does not mention Datuk Sri Najib by name. It refers to him as Malaysian official number 1. Now, the question is, who is Malaysian official number 1? I like to point out that having studied this report, I want to identify who Malaysian official number 1 is. Who is Malaysian official number 1? His name is, this term is repeatedly made in the report, I think more than 30 times. He is described as, and I quote, a high-ranking official in the Malaysian government who also held a position of authority with 1MDB. During all times relevant to the complaint, Malaysian official number 1 was a public official, as that term is used in the US law, and a public servant in the term as the term is used in Section 21 of the Malaysian Criminal Code. Now, in para 39 of the report, it says that Malaysian official number 1 assumed a position of authority with 1MDB. Malaysian official number 1 had the authority to approve all appointments to and removals from 1MDB's board of directors and 1MDB's senior management team. In addition, any financial commitment by 1MDB, including investments that are likely to affect a guarantee given by the government of Malaysia for the benefit of 1MDB or any policy of the Malaysian government, required the approval of Malaysian official number 1. And para 102 of the report states that Malaysian official number 1 is the ultimate beneficiary of M Private Banking MR account. The M Private Banking MR account is the same account that later received certain payments totaling approximately 681 million US dollars in March 2013. And there are more reference, and you can, I think, decide for yourself who Malaysian official number 1 is about. And this report also listed the assets involved. There were 13 assets mentioned in this report, which has been acquired by people like Jolo, Aziz Riza Aziz, and this Arab chap from Abu Dhabi. This include property, it includes big paintings, it includes assets, shareholdings in several major companies. It was also used to finance the production of the picture The Wolf of Wall Street. And there was also mentioned that the money was used to pay these debts incurred in gambling. That's what has happened to this 1 billion. The total is estimated at 1 billion, but the report says, and the person who was making the presentation says that they are still going on because they suspect that there are more assets to be traced and to be seized by the government. I think this report is available to most of you. You have read, you have heard, and I think this is an indictment of the involvement of the Prime Minister and his government in the mismanagement and in the stealing. They call it kleptocracy now, which means that it is government stealing from the people in this case. Government stealing money that belongs to the people. And it's not any small sum, it's a very big sum. And I think the time has come when the nation must demand for the removal of the Prime Minister, must demand for investigations to be carried out by a Malaysian body, the setting up of a tribunal, independent tribunal, not set up on the advice of the Prime Minister, because it is the Prime Minister who is going to be investigated. It must be a tribunal set up independently and to examine, and if found that there is a criminal case to be presented to the court, then it should be charged. The Prime Minister and his government should be charged in court for this massive stealing of government money, which eventually, of course, belongs to the people. So the reports are here. I cannot read all of them, but I am quite sure you all have access to the report. You probably saw the video this morning of the, I think the equivalent of the Attorney General making his statement about the investigation they have carried out. The report is very comprehensive. It even mentions conversation carried out during the course of stealing the money. So that is the situation that we see today. And if the AG does not take any action, then I think it is a breach of the law already. And the people involved, unfortunately, is the topmost leaders, officers of this government, and he cannot allow them to make a decision on this, including the AG, but it must be taken independently of the present government. There should be an interim body that will oversee proper investigation, and if found there is valid reason, then the person or persons involved must be charged in a court of law. So that is what I have to say, and I would like once again to emphasize that we have all along suspected that this has happened. We have seen evidence that this has happened, and reports by the PAC and the Auditor General confirms what we have said. There are two other reports which are not being made available because they are placed under the OSA. Here I would like to explain that the OSA, which was even during my time, it was there, the provision for official secrets is there. But official secrets do not include crimes committed in the government by whoever. It doesn't cover that. You are not supposed to cover up crimes committed in the government. What official secret is about is things like cabinet papers before they are discussed, proposals for maybe entering into a treaty, and various other things which could not be revealed at the beginning, but in the end, of course, they are made public because what was decided affects the public. But it is not meant to cover up criminal action by any member of the government, including public Malaysian official number one. It's not going to have that right to cover up. So when the AG made a statement that there has been no wrongdoing, it is obvious that he has ignored facts which must have been contained in many of the reports that he has read. And parts of what he has covered up is given in detail in this report by US officials. So if you have any question, you can ask. Yes?
You were mentioning that the nation should demand the removal of the Prime Minister. But there is still inaction by the government, and they said that this morning investigations are still ongoing with regards to 1MDB. So how do you see that he can be removed?
Well, there must be more pressure exerted by the people. It is obvious that the people expect this to be carried out. Unfortunately, the very agency which is supposed to implement and enforce the law, this agency is the one that is being investigated, and they take it upon themselves not to investigate and to declare that there is no case to answer.
How should the people the removal of Prime Minister, what do you suggest people should do?
Well, among the things they can do is to call for a referendum, perhaps, on this issue. We see a referendum being taken in many countries where leaders are removed simply because the real leaders themselves refuse to remove themselves. and say, can you go to the mic, please?
How do you propose the tribunal to be set up? Who should be on it?
Well, a tribunal must be independent. It should be set up with the consent of the king, of course, and it should be made up of people conversant with the law, judges from inside the country and from outside the country.
Tun, do you mean that this is a call for the king from you, that someone needs to step in, or is this a call for people in UMNO to stand up against the leader? Because realistically, only those two institutions can do that.
Well, there are leaders in UMNO who seem to be in cahoots with their leader. So we cannot really trust them to take any action. But the people have spoken. We have signed the declaration. 1.4 million people have signed, despite the fact that efforts were made by the government to stop people from signing this declaration. But it is the people who must make the demand. And the demand has actually been made, accepting that for some reason or other, the representative of the citizens is not allowed to meet the king by the government. Of course, we understand that the palace itself is guarded by the police force, which is under the direction, ultimately, of the Prime Minister.
Are you willing to lead a people power movement marching to the king and ask for the removal of the PM?
I don't know what response there will be. Malaysians are very timid people. You know, in other countries, you see 1 million people taking to the streets to remove their president. But in Malaysia, we are very nice people. We don't normally hold rallies like that. But of course, if the people feel strongly about it, I think they should have a peaceful rally to demand the removal of this kleptocrat who has stolen money from the government. He is entrusted with overseeing government finances, holding posts of PM and Minister of Finance, and it seems that he is the one who has abused his power and allowed money to be stolen from the government.
May I add to that?
Oh yeah.
May I add to that? Just
he's
just
a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
The lawyer, and also just to inform you that it is being considered. I think Bersih is considering this issue as to whether there should be, ought to be a rally. But if I can also add this as to why a resignation is actually I think the position of the Prime Minister as Prime Minister is untenable at this point, because things have gone to a different level altogether. If you look at the US complaint, the words used are fraud, breach of trust, those kinds of conspiracy, very, very serious words that are used in the complaint. And in fact, in the statement, it was stated that with this action, we are seeking to forfeit and recover funds that were intended to grow the Malaysian economy and support the Malaysian people. Instead, they were stolen, laundered through American financial institutions, and used to enrich a few officials and their associates. So, and the warning is very clear. Corrupt officials around the world should make no mistake that we will be relentless in our efforts to deny them the proceeds of their crimes. So those are that's the kind of language that has been used in the complaint, if you read it thoroughly. And if you look at the complaint, there is a verification right at the back. And that is a verification by the special agent, FBI agent, where he says that he verifies and declares under penalty of perjury that he is a special agent with the FBI that he has read the foregoing verified complaint for forfeiture in rem and knows the contents thereof, and that the matters contained in that complaint are true to the best of his knowledge and belief. So he has sworn to, he has verified that. So this is something that is not being taken lightly. You can see that. I don't think I need to stress that anymore. But I think that is why the Prime Minister's position has become untenable. His actions earlier of sacking the former AG, interfering with the investigations, etc., show the lengths to which he will go to stymie an investigation against him. I believe he is in a position of conflict right now. I don't think anyone who is facing the allegations that he is facing now from the Justice Department can govern anymore. How is he going to deal with the United States of America, for example, or any other countries in which the same investigations are carrying on? So that's why his position is untenable in the interests of the people of Malaysia. The government, the cabinet. In fact, I thought they would have an emergency meeting at 3 a.m. yesterday after hearing this at 11:30. Nothing has happened. We only hear some comments, vague comments, from one minister saying you're innocent until proven guilty. Sorry, where this is something that is so serious that is putting the country in a very difficult position. These people are being accused of stealing from us, stealing our money. And yet the Prime Minister remains, and yet he remains as Finance Minister. It is not something that is acceptable. So I would echo what Tun has said. There must be an independent investigation. And the government must act. They must act. They are duty bound to act. Because this is something that is so serious that it affects every single one of us. They cannot sit back and pretend it's not happening like what they've been doing so far. And by the way, this complaint shows that they have been lying to us. All those who have made statements, official statements on YMDB have not been telling us the truth. One of them, of course, is this thing about the donor. That's totally untrue. This complaint shows that that is completely untrue. And that's why the Prime Minister has forfeited his right to remain as Prime Minister. And so I would urge the government to consider very seriously what we're asking for. We've been saying before that enough is enough, but really, seriously, this is truly enough. This has to stop. And the government has to start behaving in a responsible manner. So I think that this complaint, unfortunately, the tragedy is that it has shown that it has made our system of justice a laughing stock. And for me, as a lawyer, for me, that is a huge tragedy. And I think we have to put that to a stop. And I would urge the government to immediately, this is not wait and we consider 10 days and 2 weeks, immediately take the necessary steps to address these issues. Thank you.
I just want to add to that. You see, in a democracy, there should be a separation of power between the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. Now there is this claim that he has not been found guilty, therefore he is innocent. But the process of separation of power is not working in Malaysia. Even the executive takes orders from the top man. So he has breached between the legislative and the executive. He has already ignored that. And now we would like to see the court take action, exercising the independent power of the court to dismiss or to suspend the Prime Minister. But in Malaysia, this cannot happen because obviously the court doesn't have that kind of power, although it may charge people with contempt of court, etc. But the courts in Malaysia appear not to be able to exercise that kind of power that we see in Brazil, where the president was suspended by order of the court. So this claim that because he has not been found guilty, therefore he is not guilty, is not valid at all, because the whole process of making charges and judgment in court has been stymied by the Prime Minister. So there is no way he will be found guilty. In fact, even if he bribes the electorate in the recent election, nobody cares to report, because it's worthless, because the court, the AG will not take the matter to the court. So this is the situation in this country. The whole rule of law is not functioning anymore. So we cannot wait for him to be found guilty before he is removed.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
You see, if you are Malaysian, how do you go around the world now telling who you are? When they ask you, are you Malaysian? What is happening to your country? Why do you react? Why do you keep quiet? You have only two things that will save you. Number one, you claim that you are ignorant. And number two, if you tell that you are a friend of ours here, then you have some face to show the world. Otherwise, it's a shameful thing. I mean, being a Malay, I'm very ashamed that the Malay has this sort of leadership. And being a Malaysian, I'm sure everybody is ashamed having this sort of leadership. Are we not all ashamed? All of you, are you not ashamed? If your friends anywhere in the world ask you, are you Malaysian? How are you going to say, yes, I'm a Malaysian? What is happening in your country when you have someone proven corrupt and you still keep your mouth shut and you still stay around and be a proud Malaysian? You can't be a proud Malaysian. You should be ashamed. So you can tell the world that we have the group called the group headed by Tun Mahathir, the Deklarasi Menyelamatkan Malaysia group. You are aligned to us, and in that way you can revive a bit of your image. Otherwise, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Thank you.
Tun, can I just add a little bit to what has already been said? To your right, all at the ends. I think it's currently very clear that the house of cards is falling apart. And you cannot carry on with this kind of farce and pretense, forever. You can have control over your own local government institutions. But what has happened is that, unfortunately, the local government institutions have failed. Unfortunately, the people of Malaysia have to find out about all this, and it's being verified by foreign authorities and foreign power. But the situation in the world today is that you can no longer defend this pretense, saying that nothing has nothing wrong has happened, and so on and so forth. So my advice and my request to all those in positions of power, including the Attorney General, is to fulfill your responsibility now, before everything collapses on your own head, and then you will be found guilty of complicity. You will be found guilty of being a party to a big, major criminal scandal. And this I also would like to use to address to the UMNO and Barisan National MPs. Even though Tun has said that most probably they're not going to do anything and all that sort of thing, but the situation has changed. You can't control the situation anymore. It's no longer within your control. So the sooner you admit that the battle is lost, fulfill your responsibility, come together, form a breakaway group, come together with the other opposition MPs, vote this man out, and we form a transition government, and we make right what has been going wrong all this while. do it before you yourself will be found guilty of this crime. Right? So I just like to add those 2 points.
Thank you. May I add to that? I'm sorry to say this, but you know, the press in Malaysia is censored. You are all frightened of reporting the truth because the government may take action to cancel your license. So what we say around this table may not be fully reported by you because of this fear. But if all of you print everything, I think the government would have a hard time trying to abolish the press completely. So don't let just one of you write, because then he will be victimized. Everybody should write the truth, because I believe most of you here are citizens of this country. You must support the citizens of this country who have made a declaration, and today who have made our stand very clear. The Prime Minister has failed in his duty to safeguard this country from misdeeds, from crime. In fact, the Prime Minister himself is implicated in the report made here. And now, if you don't publish the truth, then I'm sorry to say, you would also be involved in covering up. See, so it's not only us. We have come up. I mean, we are sticking our necks out. But if there are so many necks, it's a bit difficult to chop off. But if we are left to this small group, of course, our necks may be chopped off, and you will retreat because you fear to save your neck. Okay?
Tun, sorry, just one very quick question. Tun, as the longest-serving Prime Minister and as the former President of UMNO, what do you have to say to your former colleagues at UMNO? What is your message to them, those who support you and those who don't support you? That is one. And number two, part of the indictment said that the US would like to recover all this money and to return it to the people of Malaysia. It did not say the government of Malaysia, but it said the people of Malaysia. So given this current situation, who would represent the people of Malaysia where this money would be spent and allocated where it is supposed to be? And one last question for Ms. Ambiga. Can you just tell us currently what would the legal standing be of the Prime Minister given this case, or he can actually carry on as usual because no name was named in the indictment? Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, the party that is led by the Prime Minister is not the same party that I led or my predecessors led. This is a totally different party with different objectives. We were to struggle for the people and the country, but here the party is struggling for the permanency of the present leader. The objectives are different, therefore it is not the same party. It is his party, not UMNO at all. Secondly, with regard to the return of the money, should they recover? They cannot return the money to this government if it is still functioning. They must return this money to the people. And the people of this country will define who the people are, who are their leaders. In other words, we have to change the government before the money is returned to us. And Abiga.
Sorry. I think Tun actually answered the question who Malaysian official 1 is. If you look at para 28 and 29, it really doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. It's definitely the Prime Minister. I will stake my reputation on that. And I think, so I think that it's very clear who it is. And I think even YB Saleh Kruak didn't deny it. I don't think anybody dares to deny that the Malaysian official 1 is in fact the Prime Minister.
Tun, over here, Tun. Here.
No.
Yes. You mentioned about what suggested what the public should do, and what of the citizens' declaration and one of the coalition that you proposed recently. What's the next step?
Well, when we proposed the coalition recently and the setting up of a new party, this report has not been made public. So we were thinking in terms of carrying on until the next election and to try and fight in the next election. Although we know that lots of money will be used to bribe people, as happened during the last election, by-election, but we still believe that there is a democratic way of removing a prime minister who has gone totally wrong.
So, how about your own party? When will we see you? Are you going to take over from some other party? Or
Well, we are in the process of setting up the party. We are aware that if we try to register a new party, it is not going to be approved, or it will be delayed for months and years. So we are trying to find a solution to that problem. But we will set up this party, and we will make a formal declaration as to our objectives, and the party will hope to join the coalition of opposition parties who have already made clear their intention that they have a common stand over the removal of the Prime Minister.
Any timeline or anything given? When you think
ASAP.
Soon as possible.
ASAP. Smoke.
Money here. Here.
Oh, you again.
So, with this current exposure, what do you think the state of our country is? And secondly, do you think that the Prime Minister will find a way out by calling for a snap election?
I don't know about what he will do, because to have a snap election requires the agreement of the king, and the king has the right to refuse to dissolve the parliament. So it is up to him to convince the king. But if he has a snap election, we have no choice but to contest in the elections. But of course, he holds at the moment, until he resigns, he still holds the cards. So it is going to be tough for the people of this country. But we feel so much ashamed of our country now that we must come together and get rid of this Prime Minister.
So just slightly related, do you think, what about the proposal by DAP to have the snap votes? What do you think about it?
I think that is a DAP problem, because you know their leader is going to be jailed. You know, that is another case where the law is not really working in this country. One man steals 2.6 billion ringgit and is okay, but another man bought the property at slightly below market price. Oh, that is wrong. He must go to jail. What kind of justice do we have in this country?
So would the snap vote be justified?
Well, I don't know whether it is justified or not, but that is what the DAP proposes to do.
I'm still not clear. You suggested a national referendum, but who should initiate this? I mean, like, is there a more concrete view? Because, you know, this thing will go over, hopefully nothing will come of it. But how are you going to seize the momentum after this? Can you tell us about more confidence?
Well, as you know, we have started with this citizens' declaration. We will have to get the citizens to make this demand. Of course, when they signed this declaration, there was no specific demand. We just want to have to inform the the king about what's happening in this country. I think we will act together, the people who represent the citizens, and decide that, well, if I may say so, that we should decide to demand for the removal of the Prime Minister.
Time frame that you're looking at if you can get together?
Time frame is not within our control. It's not completely within our control. You see, the government has got a lot of control over time frames and over money, over power, you know. Already I have been questioned 4 times on different issues by the police, although I believe I did nothing wrong, but already pressure is being exerted by the police. Currently, the Income Tax Department is investigating all people who are in any way related to me or close to me. That kind of pressure is being exerted by the government to frighten people into not saying anything about their misdeeds. This is an abuse of power, but it is going on simply because they think we have no means of removing the government.
Do you dare Prime Minister Najib to call for snap polls, or you think he's going to hold it till the very end now?
A snap poll is fine, but whether we are ready for a snap poll is also something that we have to take into consideration.
He should resign and not call for an election.
Can I answer your question? I don't think he will call a snap election.
No.
Because the only protection he has at the moment,
Staying in power.
well, protection within inverted commas is the Prime Minister. You see, you must remember the investigation in the United States at this stage is only a civil part. There will be a criminal investigation after this. And you must understand, money laundering is a serious international crime. It will be very difficult for Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, to say there will be no criminal charges against the public relation official number 1. She has not ruled that out. So the chances of Guanyin going to jail and Najib going to jail is just about the same. So I think that he will not call a snap election because of that. But I think he's in trouble as well, probably worse trouble.
Can I just add, if the press, for me, okay, the people will do what they can. I mean, I think that there's no doubt about that. There's enough outrage there. But I think we have to start putting pressure on our people, on our ministers, and I suggest you call up the Deputy Prime Minister and ask him whether they're having an emergency cabinet meeting, and if not, why not, and whether he considers this a serious matter. I think you should put those questions to him and report the answers, because we really need to know whether these people are being responsible ministers and MPs. So I think we should ask every single one of our MPs what their view on this is. And let's find out whether they think we're in trouble or not. Someone asked, what state do you think we're in? We're in dire straits. That's what I would say. And by the way, I have a problem about referendum only if the Election Commission is running it.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? No more?
Money here.
Yes, again.
So, what is the next step after this?
There are many things that we can do. We'll have to decide on what to do. I cannot say precisely what step we are going to take.
In the interim period immediately, because you said that it's quite serious.
We would like the rulers, for example, to give us a chance, the people, to give us a chance to explain things to them. Because so far, we have not been given the chance. And the only thing that they hear is from Najib. But Najib is the one who is being accused of a lot of acts which are not legal.
So nothing can be done via Parliament?
Parliament, you know, he has all been fed with bran. You know bran? The once you feed the mouth with bran, you can speak because it fills up the mouth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
all the time we are thinking what is it. We cannot do anything else. We have enough evidence. But the legal system, the legal reform, it doesn't go to the court. It is dismissed by the agency. He becomes not only public prosecutor, he becomes a judge. He makes judges. Most of the things we have said are proven correct. Papa lagi, you've taken so many of my pictures already. You know about the senile old man? Those people who call me senile, I would like to have a debate with them.
They want you to make a funny face to Najib.
My face is funny anyway.